You've heard the hype, right? The gospel of Agile. That the future is the self-organizing team. It's this beautiful picture of empowered pros who just figure it all out, delivering amazing results with no managers breathing down their necks. It sounds incredible, almost utopian.
But I'm going to say it. For most companies, it's a complete and total myth. In the real world, self-organization is just a buzzword that often leads to absolute chaos, crippling confusion, and a terrifying lack of accountability.
So what if this big idea, the one that's supposed to be the key to unlocking your team's potential, is actually a trap? A costly fantasy that's secretly setting your projects and maybe even your career on a collision course with failure. We're going to break it down.
Okay, so let's get right into the biggest problem. I call it the chaos of reality. The thing is, the pure theory of self-organization sounds amazing in a conference room or a textbook. But what happens the second it hits the real world of office politics, tight deadlines, and, actual human beings?
Well, that's when the gap between the promise and reality turns into a giant chasm. The Agile gospel promises these empowered professionals delivering magical results. But in practice, without clear leadership, without firm boundaries, teams don't magically organize. They flounder, they get stuck, they drown in confusion and endless delays.
And this chaos, it isn't random. It shows up in a few very predictable ways. First, you get hit with crippling analysis paralysis. Without a leader who can actually make a call, the team just debates and debates and debates, endlessly chasing a perfect consensus that never, ever comes. It's death by 1,000 opinions.
And then you get the flip side of that coin, social loafing. This is a classic psychology trap. When the team is accountable, it means no single person feels the heat. It becomes so easy for critical tasks to just get dropped. Because hey, everyone just assumes someone else has got it covered.
So the bottom line is this. The moment your project has any real complexity, a bunch of stakeholders, or any significant risk, that beautiful promise of self-organization just evaporates. It becomes a fast track to pure frustration. We've been sold a myth, and frankly, it's setting good teams up to fail.
But here's the secret, the part the Agile gurus kind of gloss over. The myth isn't that teams can't manage their own work. They absolutely can. The myth is that they can do it without leadership. See, getting this to actually work requires a completely different and way more sophisticated style of leadership. It's time for some new rules.
So what does this new leadership actually look like? Well, it boils down to playing 3 very specific roles. You've got to be the architect, the obstacle remover, and the coach. And listen, these aren't job titles on a business card. They are essential functions a leader has to perform to create an environment where a team can actually thrive.
First up, the architect. A traditional manager directs the day-to-day work. They're in the weeds. A modern Agile leader does the opposite. They architect the environment for success. Your job isn't to tell people what to do. Your job is to build the system where the team can't help but succeed on their own.
So, what does that actually mean? It means you carefully pick the right people for the team. You set a vision that is so clear and compelling that everyone knows exactly why they're there. And, this is crucial, you establish firm boundaries, the budget, the strategy, the non-negotiables. The best analogy is this. The leader builds the sandbox. The team gets to decide how to play in it.
The second role you have to play is the obstacle remover. Once that sandbox is built, your primary day-to-day job is to become the team's human shield. You run interference. You fight the political battles. You chase down answers from other departments. You do whatever it takes to clear the path so the team can just focus and do their best work.
And finally, the third role, and honestly, this one's the hardest, the coach. When the team gets stuck, a traditional manager loves to jump in, be the hero, and solve the problem for them. A great Agile leader resists that urge with every fiber of their being. Instead, they ask questions, they guide, they help the team find its own way forward. This builds real capability and ownership. It's that classic teach them how to fish mentality, but for real.
So let's just be crystal clear. This kind of leadership is not easy. It takes incredible patience and self-control. It's so much harder than just telling people what to do. The move to self-organizing teams doesn't get rid of leadership. It raises the bar for what great leadership actually is.
Now, we need to talk about the dark side of all this, because in a lot of dysfunctional companies, self-organization isn't a philosophy, it's a political weapon. I call it the accountability trap.
Here's what happens. A company adopts the language of Agile, all the buzzwords, but they don't change the underlying culture of low trust. In that environment, self-organization just becomes a clever way for management to wash their hands of any responsibility.
And this is how the trap is set. It's a brilliant, cynical move.
Management says all the right things, right? You're empowered, you're a self-organizing team, but their actions scream the opposite. There's no clear vision, they don't remove a single obstacle, and the team has zero real authority to make decisions. So when the project inevitably crashes and burns, management can just shrug and say, well, we empowered them. I guess they just weren't good enough to self-organize. It's the perfect crime. All of the blame, none of the responsibility.
And this gets to the absolute core of it all. True self-organization doesn't mean the functions of management disappear. It means they get distributed. A team that is simply told to go self-organize without the structure, the vision, and the support we've talked about isn't being empowered, it's being abandoned.
So let's bust this myth once and for all. This idea of a leaderless team that just magically figures everything out is, for most of us, a dangerous fantasy. Real self-organization isn't an accident. It has to be designed. It's built on a foundation of sophisticated, intentional leadership. You need a leader who can architect the environment, a leader who acts as a shield to remove obstacles, and a leader who has the wisdom to coach, not command. This demands more from leaders, not less.
And you have got to be on the lookout for that accountability trap. Because being told you're empowered without a clear vision, without any real authority, and without a leader who has your back, well, that's not empowerment. That's just blame shifting.
So, I want to ask you, and I want you to be brutally honest down in the comments. Have you ever been stuck on a so-called self-organizing team that was really just a chaotic, leaderless disaster? Drop your war stories below. I really want to hear them.
And hey, if you're ready to cut through the corporate buzzwords and get real advice on how to build high-performing teams, do me a favor and hit that like and subscribe button. Thanks for watching.